Good morning or good afternoon, Professor Bemis. Today, for my fly on the wall speech, the three places that I want to be on a fly on the wall for are to see what happens in my friend's dad's office, Kim Kardashian's wedding, and I wanted to be on the first tower during 9/11. So I chose my friend's dad's office because no one is ever allowed to go in there. He even limits the amount of people who are allowed on the second floor of his home, which is where his office is located. And he is retired, so we're not really sure what he does in there anymore. And for 1 year on Christmas, his wife gifted him a security system to put all around their house to make sure it was secure. And instead, he put all of the cameras and the security system in his office. I think that's pretty funny. I wanted to be a fly on the wall for Kim Kardashian's wedding because it was an extremely private event and it took place in Florence. I wanted to be a fly on the wall for the first tower during 9/11 because it was an extremely traumatic event. Nobody has footage of what was going on in the towers. And 9/11 has always interested me, and I have always wondered what it looked like from the inside before the plane struck the tower and what it was like during that time of chaos, because there's no actual footage from inside during the time. So let's jump back to my friend's dad's office. So what I saw, heard, and felt in there is what we'll go over. The first thing I noticed was that it was very cold. He likes to keep his office extremely chilled. He keeps the upstairs of his house alone, 60 degrees, year round, all the time. It's freezing. I noticed that he had art on the walls from his kids. He had his bachelor's and master's degrees both framed and hung on the wall. The office was completely silent, which is not what I remember when I was younger or even last year, because he used to be on calls constantly for the company that he worked for. But now he has no business calls, no virtual chats, and there's no keyboard tapping from writing emails. The office is the cleanest, unorganized mess that I have ever seen, even though things were all over the place. Where they were seemed to be their spot. 10 charging cords, but they were all near the computer, car keys, but they were near the door, change, but it was next to his wallet. The main thing that I've noticed so far is that Abby's dad was not in his office, yet he walked through the door to get where he was going. And there were no other exits or entries into the room. But at the very end of my search, I found him. He was sitting on his balcony off of the back of his office, smoking a cigar. And I was wondering if that's what he does every day. So let me show you a picture. So he's the one right in the middle. That's Mr. Peter. So let's jump to Kim Kardashian's wedding, which was one of the most exclusive, famous events in the world. I saw about 100 guests, all dressed in designer. There was a beautiful smell of flowers because there was a wall completely made out of them, which I have the picture of for that, which is where they took their wedding photos in front of. I have truthfully never seen a 20-carat diamond ring worth $4 million until I saw Kim Kardashian walking down the aisle. Kim was draped from head to toe in Givenchy lace. Her veil was long and flowed beautifully with her train. She had walked herself down the aisle, And maybe that was a symbol for how she was a strong and powerful woman, or maybe it was because her father had passed and she didn't want anyone else to walk her down the aisle. But either way, she did it with such grace. Everything was white: the aisle, her dress, the scenery, the flowers, everything. The most beautiful part of the ceremony was seeing Andrea Bocelli singing Ave Maria as Kim walked down the aisle. So now we'll move on to 9/11, which was one of the most, if not the most, historic terrorist attacks that we have ever heard of. I saw a lot of employees sitting in their cubicles. Some people were on their computers, some were on their phones. I heard the tapping of keyboards, the ringing of phones, the dinging of copying machines, and the hustle and bustle of all of the employees. The smell in the air was that of ink, freshly printed papers, and a hint of cologne and perfume, depending on who you were near. People were stressed out, wanting to meet their goals that were supposed to be achieved the day before. And just about every employee had a cup of coffee at their desk. The last thing I saw was the plane headed straight for the floor that I was on. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed listening to my speech.